Have you ever, like, really stopped to think about how all the stuff happening around you, how you actually experience it? How does it become, your reality?
It's one of those things, right? You just assume, well, my eyes see, my ears hear. It just kind of is what it is.
Exactly. But it's so much more complex than that. Today we're doing a deep dive into the world of your five senses with this book, Mental Powers, The Five Senses by Michael Hahns as our guide. And get this, we're looking at the Arabic translation. Have you seen this cover?
I've heard it's pretty out there.
It's wild. Two faces, like merging, and one of their brains is totally exposed. This pulsing red network.
Oh.
It's a cool visual, though.
Yeah.
Makes you realize your senses, they aren't just these separate things, they're all connected.
Working together to create that experience, yeah.
It's about to get really interesting because we're going to unpack some surprising facts about how you perceive, well, everything.
It is fascinating when you really start digging into the science of it all.
So let's start with sight. Like, we're constantly bombarded with visual information, right? But do we really understand how we actually see?
It's easy to take our eyes for granted, but think about it. They're like these incredibly complex cameras constantly capturing light and sending all that raw data to your brain.
Okay, so it's not just about our eyes.
No, not at all. It's your brain that has to interpret all that data, make sense of it. It's the brain that constructs the world you see.
So it's much more of an active process than we realize.
Absolutely. This book, Mental Powers, The Five Senses, it describes how vision, it's actually a collaboration. Your eyes capture the light, but your brain is doing the heavy lifting. It figures out the shapes, the colors, the distances.
It's processing it all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is where things like optical illusions come in. They kind of trick our brains.
Yeah. They make us see things that aren't really there or not quite how they seem.
Right. It's like a little window into how our brains are working, how they're making sense of the information.
So our brains aren't just passively receiving information. They're interpreting it. Sometimes with, a few glitches along the way.
Yeah, it's like our brains are always trying to fill in the gaps, make assumptions based on what they're getting from our eyes.
Which means what we see, it's not always 100% accurate.
Precisely. Your perception, even what you see, it's a construction of your brain. You're not just a spectator, you're an active participant in creating your own visual world.
Whoa, that's kind of a mind-blowing thought when you really think about it.
It is, isn't it? It changes your whole perspective.
So it's almost like our nose is getting a sneak preview, right?
Yeah.
Before the taste even hits our tongue.
Exactly. It's amazing how it works. Your tongue, it's mainly detecting those basic tastes, sweet, sour, salty, bitter.
Right, the basic ones.
But all those more complex flavors, the things that actually make a strawberry taste like a strawberry, that's your sense of smell kicking in.
So it's working with your taste buds, not just your tongue.
It's a team effort. For sure. And that's why when you have a cold, for example, and your nose is all stuffed up.
Oh yeah, food tastes so bland.
Exactly. You're missing that whole other dimension of flavor.
Makes sense. Yeah, speaking of taste, didn't we come across something in the book about a fifth taste?
We did. You're thinking of umami, that savory taste.
Umami, that's it.
It's become widely recognized as a fifth basic taste.
So it's not just sweet, sour, salty, bitter anymore.
Nope. Gotta add umami to the list.
And what kind of foods would be considered umami?
Think of things like tomatoes, mushrooms, aged cheese. They all have that richness that goes beyond the traditional four.
That savory deliciousness.
Exactly.
And I remember, I think it was in this book, they talked about how umami, it plays a role in different cultures' cuisines.
Oh, absolutely. Umami, it was a scientific discovery, but it's also tied to cultural preferences, traditions. For example, in Japan, where the concept of umami actually originated, it's really considered a cornerstone of flavor.
They even have a specific word for it, right?
They do, yeah. Which just shows how ingrained it is in their culture.
Fascinating. It's like our biology and our cultural experiences, they're both shaping something as basic as taste.
It all ties together.
Okay, so we've covered sight, smell, taste. Let's move on to touch. Our most tactile sense, the way we actually physically connect with the world.
And it's more than just skin deep,
Oh, I bet.
Your sense of touch lets you experience temperature, pressure, pain, all the different textures.
Right. It's how we know what's around us.
It's how you navigate, how you protect yourself from danger, even how you bond with others.
It's interesting, though, how our skin can be so sensitive in some areas and not so much in others. Like our fingertips are way more sensitive than, say, our elbows. What's the science behind that?
You're right. Our skin is amazing like that. It's actually your largest organ, and it's covered in these touch receptors, but they're not evenly distributed. Areas like your fingertips, lips, face, they've got a much higher concentration of those receptors.
So that's why they're more sensitive.
Exactly. And your sense of touch, it's always adapting to what you need.
Yeah.
If you close your eyes right now and really focus on your sense of touch, your brain would actually shift gears, dedicate more processing power to that sense.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, it's like your brain is always recalibrating, prioritizing.
Focusing on what's most important in the moment.
Exactly. And this adaptability, it's what allows us to do some pretty incredible things. Learning to play a musical instrument, for example.
Right. Or even something like reading Braille.
Exactly. When you learn a new skill that involves touch, your brain rewires itself. It creates new neural pathways, strengthens existing ones, all to make your sense of touch even more fine-tuned for that specific skill.
So it's constantly evolving, changing.
Always.
It's really amazing when you think about it, how essential our sense of touch is for everything. Mm-hmm. It really is amazing how we can, experience the world on this whole other level just through touch. The feeling of soft fabric, the grip of a handshake, it's all connected to how we understand, ourselves and the world around us.
It's pretty powerful.
And speaking of powerful senses, let's talk about hearing. Tuning into, like the symphony of life.
You've got the rustling leaves, a powerful thunderstorm. It's all part of it.
It really is. And, hearing, it's not just how we experience sound. I mean, obviously it is. But it's also so crucial for communicating, for how we develop language, even for spatial awareness.
You're right. This book, Mental Powers, The Five Senses, it really breaks down how hearing works. Those sound waves traveling through the air, our ears catching them, and then boom, they're transformed into these electrical signals that our brains can understand.
It's incredible, really, the whole process. It's like our ears are like little microphones picking up those vibrations, and then
our brains are the amplifier.
Yes. They take those signals and turn them into something that, actually means something to us. And it's amazing the range of sounds we can hear, from a whisper to like a jet engine.
And like our other senses, our hearing changes over time, too.
It does. I swear, I used to be able to hear these super high-pitched sounds when I was a kid that I can't even hear now.
It's one of those things that happens to all of us as we get older.
I guess it's a good reminder to really appreciate the full spectrum of sound while we can.
Exactly. And it's not just about the act of hearing, it's about the impact sound can have on us. Think about music, for example.
Oh, music is huge. The emotions it can evoke.
Powerful stuff, right? Whether it's joy, sadness, nostalgia.
There's always that one song that takes you back to a certain time, place, feeling.
Exactly. It's like a universal language.
It really is. And you know what else is amazing? How we learn language in the first place. Babies. They start talking by listening and imitating the sounds around them.
That's how we all start.
It blows my mind how our brains can take these sound waves and make sense of them, turn them into language, into communication, into connection.
It's a pretty incredible system when you think about it.
And we use hearing for so much more than just communication. Spatial awareness, for example.
You're right. That's a big one. We can tell if a room is empty or full of people just by how the sound echoes or doesn't.
It's like our ears are giving us a sonic map of the world.
Exactly. It's all connected. And that's something that's important to remember, All of our senses, they might be distinct, but they don't work in isolation.
They're all working together,
creating this incredible tapestry of how you experience the world.
It's like a symphony. Each set's playing its part,
yeah,
but together creating this beautiful, complex whole.
And each person's symphony is unique. It's shaped by their experiences, their genetics, their culture.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the fascinating world of the five senses, we want to leave you with this. Your senses are your key to a richer, more vibrant experience of, everything.
It's true.
So take a moment today to really savor the aroma of your coffee, to appreciate those vibrant colors in nature, to really listen to the nuances in someone's voice.
Pay attention. You might be surprised at what you discover.
Exactly. And remember, your senses, they're constantly evolving. Don't be afraid to explore. Try new foods, listen to different kinds of music.
Keep those senses engaged.
Because the world is full of amazing things just waiting to be experienced.